The following is a pre-recorded show. Welcome to Winning in Retirement with your host, Brian Akers, certified financial planner professional and founder of Akers Financial Group. Now, helping you win in your retirement, here's Brian Akers.
Welcome to Winning in Retirement. I'm President and Founder Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group. We welcome you to our show, Winning in Retirement. Today we have a very special day. We have a lawyer, Ashley Nelson-Raut, here to go over many things. Our topic is going to be trust your assets. We'll get into that a little bit later after I introduce Ashley to you. She's a partner at Raut Law Firm. Ashley, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you for having me.
You know this is the third time you've been on my show.
I know.
And we have a library of your incredible information on our website at akersfinancial.com under the radio podcast. Right there, you'll see the Ashley and I going over Estate Planning 101. And then about a year ago, we recorded the idea of what happens in the first meeting with a lawyer, which is a way of understanding. Now, today, we're going to the big time, to the major leagues. We're covering trust and trust your assets. And I think this is a wonderful thing because this is one of your specialties, right, Ashley?
Correct.
Now, trust are things that lawyers can help build up when it comes to your documents. There's assets involved as we work our whole life. We grow our estate. All this is involved in the concept of using of trust. Now, Ashley, these trusts are things that you use with your clients?
Yes, when it's applicable. So as you get older and you start to build your wealth, usually things become a little bit more complicated, whether that's because you have business interests or things of that nature, or you just have a high net worth of assets. Yeah.
So today I called the show Trust Your Assets. And the reason I wanted to call it that is because assets, or really who we are, is everything we own, right?
Yes. And that coupled with family dynamics is very important to make sure that you have everything in order so that when the unfortunate time comes when you pass away, that everything goes as according to your plan.
Yeah, so one thought I had is if someone doesn't have a trust, that means they have beneficiaries or a will. Most of the time, they just name someone, and that person just gets the money and do whatever they want with it. Is that pretty much correct?
Correct. And, when someone gets the money and they can do whatever they want with it, there's a few problems with that. One, you may not agree with how that beneficiary is spending the money.
Yeah.
The second thing is, what's very important in the world that we live in is that it's not protected money for that beneficiary when they get it outright. And the most problematic with that is, let's say that your son puts everything that he inherited from you in a check in his joint account with his wife, and then they get divorced and you have a very messy commingling situation. Right. And so having a trust prevents that.
Yeah, so what we're going to try to do today is explain the basics of trust, the uses of the trust. We're going to apply it to business owners. We're going to apply it to goals and legacy, and then talk about trustees. That's what we're going to try to do. It's hard to fit all those topics into one, so we're going to cover some things. Now, Ashley, I'm going to ask lots of questions,
Sure.
and you have all the answers, which is great. And I enjoy working with you over the years, and your partner, Kevin Bressett, over the many years through the estate planning for our clients. All right, so should a client always have a trust? Is that something that's like automatic?
Well, I think that like any other lawyer, they would say it depends. It depends on their net worth and their family situation, But most clients, it is a good idea to have a trust, whether it's a testamentary trust, a revocable trust, or an irrevocable trust. It just depends on what type of trust we're talking about. All
right. She dropped some big words there. So testamentary trust. That would be inside the last will and testament.
Yes,
and that
exactly.
creates trust upon a death. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I got that. All right. So that's testamentary trust. So if I passed away and I had a testamentary trust, that's when it gets created and begins to work?
Yes, it's funded upon your death.
Okay. So then, am I controlling things beyond my grave? Is that what I'm doing there?
In a way, because you're spelling out where the trust goes and who's in charge of it and what happens when the first person passes away that's beneficiary of the trust. Where does the trust go after that? And so we call that in the estate planning world dead hand control. Dead hand control.
That's the fancy talk. It's not just tag.
No.
I got to tag someone and say, you're it. You take over for me. But in the trust document, a testamentary trust, there's the rules of what to do with the money, right?
Correct.
Now, you said another word, irrevocable. So there's, I guess, the word revocable and irrevocable. When are these trusts set up for people?
So revocable means that you can change the trust during your lifetime as long as you are competent to do so. Irrevocable means that you can never change the trust terms. Once whatever asset is used to fund the irrevocable trust, you can't have any control over it in order to have protection for Medicaid and things of that nature.
So revocable trust is pretty much, when people say trust, that's the first thing they talk about is revocable trust, right?
Yeah. So revocable trust is a standalone trust that you have in addition to your will. Your will, in that case, would just pour over to your revocable trust.
Sure.
But the revocable trust is a standalone document that's funded during your lifetime. And it can change over time, as family dynamics change, as your asset picture change, and things of that nature.
Yes, so revocable trust and the word pour over, I like those words. So for those out there listening, imagine that you have assets. What you would need to do is retitle them to the revocable trust. When she uses the word funding, that's what one of the mistakes I see when people come in to see me. They have a trust, they have these things, but then I say, well, let's read it and let's see your titling of your accounts. And it's not right. And
they don't match. And so one thing that I will tell you is Kevin and I, my law partner Kevin and I, we take great pride in our review and sign meetings. When clients are coming in to sign documents, we provide a checklist and we go through each asset that they own and tell them, this is how you need to change the titling, or this is how you need to change the beneficiary designations. Because what's very important that people don't understand is you can have an estate plan, but if your titling of your assets do not match that estate plan, you have just paid for an estate plan not to work.
Absolutely. And I take that list you have, and then we as a planning team make sure the client dots every J, and we dot I's and J's here. We cross T's, and what else do we cross? On the top of J's sometimes. So we try our best to always take the document and the wishes of the client and what the lawyer created to implement it per account, to make sure family dynamics and the plan is fully implemented when the worst case things happen in our life. So one of the things that I always say is this: when you're thinking about financial planning, it's not fun to talk about dying or things going wrong. But imagine in your planning, if you took the worst case scenarios, we had a lawyer as part of the team, and you went through and made your decisions now. You finalize those decisions, and then we go out and invest and win in retirement, and we have it all in place already. I love to have it settled, and then we go enjoy our life and invest like we're going to live forever. That's my concept of getting it done.
Correct. Yeah, and making sure that everything drives together, and I think that's what makes our relationship, you and me, very valuable to clients, is that, not only are they getting the legal aspect taken care of with their estate planning documents, but then they're actually implementing it and making sure that their plan, works. And I think that that's a very important thing that is missed many times in estate planning world.
And when it's missed, it can cause a lot of problems if someone passes away suddenly. And that's what we're trying to avoid by getting everything done right. And so the idea here is this: we're talking about trusting your assets. Should you put your assets in the trust? We're just talking some general topics of how it works, how it flows. In this section of time, we basically talked about should a client have a trust or not, and we said most likely, but it depends. Now, that's all going to depend on you and what you built and what you've grown your money to be over your time, but also about your family. The family dynamics, one of the things that we've done a number of things for special needs children or adult children.
Yeah, special needs planning is very important. It's probably one of the most important things that people need to worry about, because you do not want to inadvertently have a special needs person inherit money directly, because that can disqualify them from their government benefits.
Right.
So really what you need to have done is either establish a special needs trust within a will or within a trust itself, or a standalone special needs trust. And if you don't do that, the repercussions of it after the person passes, or after the person that is giving the money to the special needs person passes away, are catastrophic.
Yeah, when I think about my clients that have a special needs child, they're all in. They're taken care of. And then they do have that thought of, what if I'm not here? How do we take care of that special needs child? And that special needs trust is exactly how we take care of them, to provide for them. We get the benefits that are allotted to them, but then these special needs trusts can pay for things. What kind of things can a special needs trust generally pay for?
Special needs trust can pay for anything that the special needs person needs. Clothing, it can be a vacation, it can be educational things, it can be vocational things, housing, things like that. A lot of people feel the need to leave their real property in a special needs trust so that the person isn't uprooted during a traumatic event. Sure. And so we can use that for maintenance in the house and paying utilities and things like that so that the person isn't uprooted and having to go into a different home during that catastrophic event. Yeah,
so this sounds like taking that person that truly loves and cares and wants to take care of them now and beyond if they pass away. And that's exactly what a special needs trust does. And actually, most revocable become irrevocable upon a death.
Yes.
And then trusts have information in there how to pay and provide for people, no matter if they have special needs or not.
Correct.
So there's lots of things that trusts can do. If you said what, dead hand?
Dead hand control.
Dead hand control. I'm sorry. Dead hand control. Yes. That's a very important thing, to be able to take your wishes and your legacy to be implemented to provide for that family, to help them do and accomplish one of the things that you'd like them to do. Very, very important.
Yes.
So, this quarter's been flying by. I do appreciate it. Now, Ashley and Kevin, they have their main office in Bel Air, and they meet people around the state. We do appreciate working alongside with them. Totally separate firms. So we use attorneys like Ashley and Kevin. We have them on the radio because they're brilliant, and we love having them here. Acres Financial Group, we're a local independent financial planning firm, financial services firm. Acres Financial Group has offices in Lutherville and Barstow in Harford County. We meet clients all around the Mid-Atlantic region, all around the country, and even a few around the world. We talk about winning in retirement. Winning in retirement is getting all your financial house in order. Estate planning, things like that might not be the most fun to talk about, but it's a necessity. How do we take care of our family from today on forward? So how do you begin winning in retirement? It's easy. You call us. You call us at Acres Financial Group, and we set up a free meeting with one of our team of advisors by calling 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WINRETIRE. And we'll give you a call on Monday to schedule your free in-person meeting. If you own a business, should you have a trust? We'll talk about this when we return.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. This is Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group. I'm the president and founder of Akers Financial Group, and I'm a certified financial planner practitioner. But when it comes to estate planning, we bring in lawyers. And today I brought a lawyer in for you. Her name's Ashley Nelson-Raut from Breast-Raut Law. You can go to breast-raut.com. I'm sorry, I got my words all mixed up.
Oh,
Ashley,
it's okay.
Welcome to the second quarter. I'm sorry I messed up the name of your website. Can you say it better than I can?
Breast-Raut Law.
So it's BRESSRAUT. Actually, law, then .com.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. As long as you get the breast part in there, Kevin will be happy.
There's going to be a link right on our Acres Financial website, too. It's acresfinancialgroup.com, and you can hit a tab under the radio section and be able to access information about their law firm. We brought Ashley in because we wanted to have talks about estate planning, and today's topic is about the use of trust. This show is going to be about the educations of the basics of trust, the basic uses of trust. If you'd like to, you can go to our website under the radio podcast section at acresfinancial.com. Ashley's done a couple other shows with us over the last couple of years. One is called Estate Planning 101, and another one was about the first visit with the lawyer. And then today we're talking about trusts and how they work. We want you to be educated on all these tools, but understand you need experts. You need a team of people to help you where you are to make sure everything you're doing works the way you want it to work. It's very, very important. All right, so this topic is rolling into the second quarter, and this quarter is all about businesses. All right, so Ashley, you ready for my hard questions?
I am ready.
All right, so business owners. I'm a business owner, and a business owner, we have stock in our company, even if it's a small business, medium or large, or even public, we have stock in the company. Can a trust own that stock? Is that advisable? And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is advisable, and there's a couple different reasons why it's advisable.
Sure.
And I guess we can break it down one by one, but one of the first reason it's advisable is because, one thing is that in your family, you're the one that's running the business. And, you wouldn't expect your wife to come in here and try to run Acres Financial, right? And so you need to make sure that she's supported upon you passing away, but you also need to understand that she's not going to be the one that's running the business. So that's where you create a trust to put your trusted people that would know how to run the business in the business so that it continues to operate and a legacy is formed so that it can provide for your family as if you were still here.
And she gets the checks.
And she gets the checks. And that's the most important part, right?
Yeah, that's really good advice. A lot of business owners, we race, we run, we do everything fast, and we don't have our family in mind on how we set it up.
I will tell you a funny story is that, business owners are my favorite clients because they're always so funny, right?
Yeah.
And so I find myself in the back kitchen of a restaurant trying to get the owner to sign the will or, putting on my hunting boots and going out to a crane operator site and climbing up on a crane to try to get, him to sign the will. And what's particularly important for people to understand that own businesses is that the business is most of the time worth more than what you think it is. And what I mean by that is businesses, they have cash in their operating account. And then you think about property, and sometimes the property is worth a lot of money. And what people don't realize is we need to get it appraised at the time of the owner's death. And if there's not enough liquid cash to pay the estate tax, well, then we have a problem. And so where I like to use trusts is actually using an irrevocable trust to push some small percentage of the business to the next generation in an irrevocable trust so that we don't have to worry about the business running low on cash to pay the estate tax. And that has been tremendously helpful for a lot of businesses, especially small family businesses.
Especially when you have the next generation interested in the business, right?
Yes. And what's even more important is when you have a classic case scenario is I always have the client that comes in and for whatever reason, they have 2 children. It's always 2 children. I don't know why they don't have more or less, whatever. But,
I'm sorry.
Whatever.
I have 2 children.
Okay. So we always have 2 children in the mix. And for whatever reason, the son always wants to run dad's business and the daughter doesn't want to run dad's business. But dad looks at me and he says, how do I make it equal?
Right.
How am I going to do this?
Yep.
But the son should have the business, but I've got to make my daughter equal with the money.
Yep.
And so that's where it becomes very, very important, not only for, the person who owns the business peace of mind, but also to make sure that it doesn't turn into a huge argument after the death.
Well, you want the non-involved kid or the daughter in your scenario not to run the business.
Correct.
But you want the son to pay the portion of the profits to the daughter. So there's lots of how's it going to work issues.
Right. And that's where we have, trust agreements can put forth different provisions in order how to calculate that, how to share profits, or even how to set up a buy-sell for the son to eventually take over. All different parts are very important to consider. And the answer is never to just say, oh, well, whatever happens, happens. And when I pass away, they'll figure it out. No, that's never a good thing. And that's recipe for disaster that I see time and time again. So I try to avoid that when I can.
Oh my, there's so many articles about famous people who never did their estate planning. They didn't have someone like you that went to their crane or to their stage and had them sign the documents and make sure they had estate planning. Aretha Franklin was one of them in the last couple of years. Elvis Presley, all of them, they never did their estate plan, and then their information's all public. Now, a trust avoids the public notifications of business information?
Yes. And so a lot of clients feel that they want to keep their information private. Now, I will tell you that And when you say public, it does not mean that Brian Akers' asset sheet is going to be posted at the Register of Wills for Hartford Counties on the walls of the courthouse. It means that when you go to the Register of Wills website, you can order documents that are filed in your estate for 50 cents per page. So I like to tell people, don't feel like you're so special that somebody's going to spend a couple $100 trying to get documents from your estate. Now, I don't know. Maybe people are nosy. Maybe that does happen, but I'm not sure. But a lot of clients like to, especially when a business is involved, they like to keep that under wraps, how much it's worth, for a lot of different reasons. One being that they don't want their children to be preyed upon after their death.
Absolutely.
By seeing, people getting nosy and seeing how much the child is running into with money, and they don't want people to get into their lives, investors, relationships, all different things to take advantage of the child.
Now, recently I've seen a lot of this where hardworking business owners, there's not really a business continuity plan to the family, and so they decide to sell. And so they have to address income taxes, and then the estate planning. They think they ultimately need to have a trust to hold the assets after the sale, so that they then can manage it for their current life and beyond. Trusts are a real good thing for a former business owner to put those assets in. What are some of the advantages of that? Yeah,
so I mean, it helps the family to manage the money better and more frugally. Imagine selling your business for $500,000, and then your son who's 30 has $500,000 in the bank. One would think that maybe your son goes out and buys a house or buys this and buys that. They see this big number, but they don't know how to make it last. So the trust really puts in provisions and parameters to basically make the people keep the money longer and let it build and provide for them over a longer period of time instead of it being dangerous to them.
The amazing thing is the multiples on business purchases have been where people can sell their businesses for 10 million, 15, 20. We've had one we talked to about $30-some million. And after tax, we get this money, we put it in the trust, and then we work within the trust to design the estate plan so that we can avoid federal and Maryland estate taxes through trust design. That's a very complex subject, not the purpose of this quarter, but business owners, when you hit the jackpot, technically, you've sold your hard work business, and then you gather the assets. Trust protections, trust design really help us to truly manage that money for today and beyond.
Right. And I think a lot of business owners, when they sell their business after they pay that tax, they have trouble understanding the concept that this is the money that they have and their business money isn't still coming in. Correct. Right. So they need to manage the money that they have, because they're not going to get more money as they would rolling income when they own the business.
That's a big deal, because the business paid for everything for a lot of people.
Correct. And so having a financial advisor in place to help them really project what their burn ratio is with their bills and what's staying and what's going, and what's important to them to spend money on, what are non-negotiables, what are maybe extras that should be cut. That's very important.
All right. So let's say you run a business, but you don't own it. You're an executive or an officer at a nonprofit, a hospital, any of these places. Is there ways to have trusts that have some protections that you put into them? Yeah. I mean, if you are running a business, I would think that you have pretty hefty retirement. Sure. Or, that's being contributed to by the business and by yourself. And so, setting that up in a trust would be protected for whoever's inheriting from your estate, from, divorce, bankruptcy, creditors, all those types of things. So that's equally as important. Yeah, very much so. The irrevocable trusts are things that can be creditor proof. Yes, for the person creating it. So a lot of times with business owners, we do irrevocable trust more for estate tax planning, just to get some money out of their estate, and we make it a palatable amount where they don't really notice that it's not theirs anymore, because they can't touch it anymore. Yeah. But it is a very good tax saving tool. Yeah, so we're covering a lot of things. So basically, if you're a business owner, the main thing you get out of this quarter is really, I need to think about this. Do you have it in place? Ask yourself that. See if you do. See if you set up your corporation. Or who owns the stock? Is it just you by your name? Should you do something different? That's why you call lawyers. That's why you have meetings. That's why you have a financial team to help you make these wise decisions. We enjoy this stuff. We love this stuff. You enjoy this, right, Ashley?
Yeah. And I like to do corporate checkups and just make sure that everything's good. It's always good to have somebody look at everything every 5 years or so, just to make sure everything's compliant with the law and it is what you remember it to be.
Oh, I love that part. The thing is this, sometimes we think we did something. We might have done something. In reality, once we check, we said, oh, I didn't finish that. That's when you need to have the experts behind you to help you. At Acres Financial Group, we are that financial expert. We help you with where you are now to help you win in retirement years by taking advantage of the opportunities to that you have in front of you. So you can go to acresfinancialgroup.com and check us out or call us at 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. And we'll call you on Monday to set up that free in-person meeting with one of our team of advisors. Make your money outlast you. We'll explain this in a moment.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. I'm Brian Akers, president and founder of Acres Financial Group and the host of Winning in Retirement, a radio podcast. Here today we have Ashley Nelson-Raut, and she's an estate lawyer working with Bress-Raut Law. That's her website, bressroutlaw.com. We have a website, acresfinancialgroup.com. Under there, our radio podcast, you'll hear some of the other shows we've had Ashley come on and talk about Estate Planning 101, the First Talk with a Lawyer, and today, the Trust Your Assets show, talking about trust and why and how it applies to people's lives. This second half of the show, we're going to begin with a topic about making your money outlast you. So, Ashley, is this a fun topic to talk about making this money last beyond you?
It is. It's something that I think every average American hopes to do, but without the proper tools, it doesn't really work.
So it's like a dream, isn't it?
It is. I think it's the classic case American dream for most people, you know?
And we do have some people come in and say, oh, I want to spend my last dollar on my last day. And we can do that. But then there's most people want to do something beyond them, something better. We call that legacy planning. A lot of other ways, but the concept of make your money outlast you, a trust can help do this, right? Yes,
it can help do it because it really plans out past the first generation onto the second generation, onto the third, and it helps to pass that generational wealth from generation to generation.
Yeah, so you work hard, you want to keep the money, and that's exactly what we want. Now, I also like to have what you call the dead hand.
Dead hand control. So that's when the person that has the money is spelling out when the next generation can take the money and how. Yeah. And then what happens to that first generation, like what happens to the trust for the first generation to get to the second, and where does it go? So you can keep complete control and say, okay, well, if my son passes away and there's still money in his trust, then it can only go to descendants of me, meaning only my blood relatives. So you can make it as narrow or as wide as you want it to be. You could say that you only want it to go to charities, or you specifically want it to go to X, Y, and Z. You know, that is your prerogative. And with trust, you can control that. That's the only way that you can do it.
How far in the future can you control?
How far in the future, you know?
That's a hard question,
isn't it? You can't go up against what we call the rule of perpetuities, which we're not going to get into today because I'm going to have horrific flashbacks to law school and property law.
I'm not saying that word. I can't say that word out loud.
Rule in perpetuities, yeah. So it can't really go on forever and ever and ever and ever. There has to be a determined
sometime down the road,
end period. Correct. Okay. You know, there has to be what we call an ascertainable beneficiary, meaning an identifiable person.
You're bringing out the big words now.
Yes. The words that I use at Stevenson when I'm teaching my students, and they look at me like I have 5 heads, right? So that's very important is to know that there must be an end in sight for the trust.
Okay, this is my simple understanding. If I'm, let's say, I have a client that's on play 80, he has his kids, he has his grandkids, and so he could set up for everyone that's currently alive.
Yes.
And maybe beyond, a little bit beyond?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Great grandkids.
Sure. You know. Alive or not alive, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So what happens is this. Some of you might already own a trust. You might be a beneficiary of trust, and you might need to know what can you do. The lawyers help you with understanding and reading what you already have in existence. But then there's people that need to set up trusts to allow these assets to benefit their families over time. Trust will allow you to take your wishes, your concerns, almost your priorities, and say, well, this is what I want to see happening. Now, a lot of times it's simple things for kids, right, to wait till they're a certain age. What are the ages you've seen that people put a trust for a kid, and then when do they give kids sort of like it's theirs now? Is there a certain rule or?
When I'm doing estate planning, I always tell people I don't like giving kids control until they're out of college.
Oh, absolutely.
So 25 really is the lowest that I suggest, but what I typically say is leave the money in trust for the child for their lifetime. Have them be co-trustee with the adult in the picture, your trusted advisor at 25. Give them 5 years to learn the ropes from the person who knows the ropes. Right. And then at 30, let them manage the trust themselves so that they have the option to keep the protection there and not blow it up. Or they can blow it up. And if they blow it up, maybe they have a good reason or maybe they don't. And you're pretty long gone by then, but I see those ages change. More and more I've seen clients increase the age to 30 to 35. I think that's more because of different things happening in the world and things like that. It may also be because people are still, from college, they go to graduate school. That may be a thing. I'm not really sure.
Well, life sort of starts a little later.
Yes.
Like the health care till 26 on your parents. That was 14 years ago, 15 years ago. And that sort of pushed the beginning of starting of life and responsibilities almost later for a lot of people.
Yes.
Marriage later, healthcare later, job, all these things. And then it almost makes more sense on the trust, to wait until they settle in and the adult they're going to become before they have control. Yes, and that's why I always, encourage clients to just do what they want to do right in this moment and know that every 5 years we'll be sending a check-in letter saying, hey, has anything changed? Yeah. Have you learned any more about, the people that you've appointed, or are there any things that need to be restructured to account for the different family dynamic changes? All right, let me ask the hard one. You have a good kid and a bad kid. And the kid just has one kid has trouble with money. Do you put a trust for one and not the other? No. How does this work? No, I always recommend to clients to treat their children the same. Okay. Because it avoids a lot of back and forth and arguments. But what I do say is, set up a trust for each one of your children, regardless of whether or not they're fiscally responsible, because it offers a great level of protection. But the thing where you can treat them differently is who is the trustee of their trust. So for the fiscally irresponsible person in the equation, you may think about having your accountant or your attorney or, a trusted friend or sibling be the trustee. And then the financially responsible child, they can be their own trustee. So that's the way you can treat them differently. But I would not treat how their general inheritance goes to them differently, because that just starts a lot of trouble. Right. Wow. That sounds like a slippery slope of questions I could ask, and I don't think we have 3 hours to go. But I believe having the conversation is what people need to do. Yes. People need to talk to a lawyer. They need to talk to each other. The spouses need to talk to each other about this and not put it off. Yeah, when you put things off, it's like it just goes downhill real quick. Then there's nothing set up. And everybody's arguing, and then the money goes to attorneys and taxes and things like that when it doesn't need to be that complicated, as long as you make the plan before the event occurs. Yeah, so like when I think money outlasting, I think, well, all right, so you build the wealth and then you use what you need, and then there's money left over. There's all these stats out there about people that get inheritance, they spend it in 9 months. And so the idea is trying to make this money last longer. And so sometimes I teach my clients to give kids some money while they're alive to see how they handle it. And then you build the trust to give them money to the future for purposes, for reasons, and to really take their wishes and push it to that next generation. Now, trust, the word trust, there is to make that happen beyond the grave. It does it have to be part of your will, or does the revocable trust turn into this permanent trust? Can you just explain
You
the
can
basics?
do it a couple different ways. I
Sure.
mean, one, you can build a trust within your will, which is typically the cheaper option, but it's a little bit more... it has to be that your beneficiary designations match what the everything would go to the testamentary trust under your will in order for the plan to work.
Right.
And a lot of people can't get their head around that if they have their kids named individually on their retirement assets.
Right.
Well, that's going to avoid the trust, and we just made it for no reason. Then you have a revocable trust. Now, a revocable trust is funded during your lifetime by changing the titling of your assets to already fund it, and then it's there, and then at death, it just goes and splits into separate trusts for your kids, or continues on for your spouse, and then goes ahead and splits into separate trusts for your kids.
All right, so I got to ask a little more difficult question on that first idea. I believe when you're talking about trust and you're truly want to get the money to where you want it to go, I guess a will, if it's in the will and you make the IRAs go to the will, is there a way so that they don't pay tax all at one time on the retirement? Does the trust allow for stretching the retirement money out over 10 years? Is that?
Yes, that's how you would do it. You would put the beneficiary designation as your testamentary trust.
Okay.
So it would automatically go into the testamentary trust and not your estate. You don't want a retirement account to go to your estate, because then you don't have that stretch period. You're paying all the taxes at one time. Whereas when you do to the trust, then you can spread it out over that period.
And then the trust would have its own instructions inside of there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And really what you need to think about is, no matter what, with this new Secure Act, you're going to be having to take that money within that period of time. And
a 10-year rule. A 10-year rule is a little tricky, because so people have 10 years to pull money out. And so that's good, but also bad, because you got to take withdrawals during the year on certain accounts, and just understanding all the rules. And that's what we try to specialize as financial advisors. And the lawyers help us implement it after you pass away also.
Right.
So
right.
we help with people that inherit and people that are giving it. So both sides of it.
Yeah.
All right. So this is going really fast, talking about making your money outlast you. We're talking about how trusts help you do this and why you want to consider it, and why you need to have trustees, and you need to think about, when do they get the money? How do they get the money? What is your wish? And that's what the good estate planning is going to do, right?
Yes. As long as the titling's updated, the beneficiaries are updated, then you're good to go.
When you use the word trust with a new client, do their eyes roll in the back of their head, or do they have a preconceived concept?
A lot of clients come in with a preconceived concept of what they need, and I try to make the least complicated plan as possible so that we can get the best product for the price point in which they want.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, winning in retirement is getting everything organized for you and your family. That's winning, getting these things in place. The way you can win is this: set up your free initial appointment with our team of advisors at Acres Financial Group by calling 833-WIN-RETIRE. You schedule an in-person meeting just with one of our team of advisors, and we get started. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE. 833-946-7384, or go to our website at acresfinancialgroup.com. Trust in your trustee. We'll talk about this in a moment.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Welcome back to Winning in Retirement, a Winning Retirement radio podcast put on by Acres Financial Group. I'm Brian Akers, a certified financial planner practitioner, and here with me today is Ashley Nelson-Raut. Ashley Nelson-Raut from Bress-Raut Law Firm in Bel Air. We enjoy our jobs. One of the things I was going to ask Ashley is, what I know about Ashley is you're a professor of law at Stevenson University. You're a partner in your law firm.
Yes.
You do estate planning, and you work about, 9 days a week or something like that?
Something like that, right?
So you enjoy what you do.
I do. I do enjoy what I do. Clients come to me in their worst case scenarios or in fear of their worst case scenarios. And
that's an important factor, the fear of it. And is that harder than when they're actually in the worst case scenario?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But what I pride myself in is I make that fear go away, and
Sure.
I make a difficult situation get resolved. And so that's what gets me up every morning, to help my clients be able to do that and fix the complicated problems and be able to mediate the complicated issues and family dynamics and things like that.
So if I called that winning in lawyering, or
Yes.
winning in attorneying?
Yes, and I'll tell you something real interesting. Well, not interesting, but one of my best moments actually happened this week.
Awesome.
I had a divorce that was particularly, complicated, difficult, and it was, Kevin and I were doing the estate planning for the couple, and we did not do the divorce, but we had to be part of the marital settlement agreement because of all the tax ramifications, all the estate planning ramifications, all the buy-sell ramifications. And the number one thing that was important to these clients was please make sure that whatever happens, our kids know nothing of this situation.
Wow.
And one of their children graduated from high school, and I had sent a graduation card, and the son wrote me something back, and he sent it, and it was a letter to me thanking me and saying how grateful he is for all the help that I provided his family.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was a full circle moment for me that I was able to make this whole process, which was probably one of the most challenging divorces in my career, and make sure that the children weren't affected by it. And that was very fulfilling for me to see it come full circle. Yeah,
and that's a win, but that takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and then you got to follow all the aspects of the case, and that's a very, very good thing. That's one of the many reasons we invite you to be on the radio and at our public events, and we enjoy having you work with our clients. Today, what we're trying to do is talk about trust your assets. Now, what that means is this: we have to sometimes pick a trustee. And so this quarter is about trust in your trustee. So I want Ashley to try to describe the job of trustee, and then we want to talk about who should people pick as their trustee.
Right. So, the job of a trustee is really a gatekeeper of the funds, right?
Sure.
And they have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interests of the beneficiaries, all while maintaining the wishes of either the person creating the will that established the trust or the person creating the trust if it's a standalone trust. So you need to keep that in mind. You can't act in your own best interests. You can't self-deal. You need to make sure that you're being reasonably prudent, and that you are providing when things are needed, but you're not over providing. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you're a trustee of a trust, and child comes to you and they want a Maserati. Their car blew up, and now they want a new car, and they're saying, I want a Maserati. And, the trustee's job is to say, hey, maybe you should go think about getting a Subaru, not something that's, going to be huge on insurance, and you're going to go out there and drive and kill yourself. Let's get you a Subaru, right? Instead, that's a little bit more responsible and more reasonable. So that's kind of what the job is, in addition to meeting with the financial advisor, as often as what you need to make sure that the assets are being managed properly. And then, of course, filing the tax return every year for the trust.
Right. There's a lot to being a trustee, right? There's the accounting of it.
Yes, you need to have an annual accounting every year whereby you show each beneficiary down to the penny what's in and out of the trust, what was used as expenditures, what was gained, what income came in, what came out, all those things.
Yeah, so a trustee is someone that needs to be responsible to do the wishes that you want. So is it fair just to say all my kids to be the trustee? You've seen that probably where somebody goes, I'll just name all 3 kids and they can figure the trustee out. The
problem is that when you name too many trustees, too many cooks in the kitchen are not good, right? Because people don't agree.
That's what my wife tells me.
Yes. You need to be able to name a trustee that, at least is able to stand firm when the beneficiary wants something that's not advisable or not reasonable. But you also need a trustee that's going to be organized and stay on top of things and be able to produce that accounting by law.
Yeah.
But, if you wanted to name all three of your children, a lot of times it's better to have something rather than nothing. There is an idea of a trust protector that we can put in there. And a lot of times that's a third party, meaning an attorney or an accountant, that it acts as the tiebreaker between or among your children.
Have you done that role for people?
I have done it quite a few times. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now trust protector is not the trustee. They're sort of almost like the vice president in Congress when Senate, when it's 50-50 and the vice president comes down to vote. Is that type of thing?
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a referee job in a football game. You're blowing the whistle and saying, no, here's the call.
So attorneys can also be the trustee.
Yes. And for a lot of different situations where, either one, their child is young and they can't name their child, or if their child has spending issues or other different things that happen in life, or you just don't trust anybody else to manage the trust. A lot of times people will appoint their attorney or their accountant because those people have an extra layer of fiduciary duty in that if they do something wrong, they're losing their license.
Yep.
And that's not something that people like to, dabble in doing wrong.
Yeah. So when we deal with trust as a financial advisor, I play the role of implementing the plan and never play the role of trustee because there is a conflict of interest for me to implement the plan and make it happen day to day on the investments and management and that kind of thing. And that's why the attorney and the team of people is there to help us run the whole thing for the family.
Correct. And I do see an advantage, and a lot more people are naming their attorney or their accountant because of the fact that they do not want to have inter-family turmoil once the parents aren't there to be the referee between the children or whatever. And it's a third party that spent a considerable amount of time with parents and knowing their wishes, whereas maybe the parents are private and they didn't want to tell their children how much they have or what their goals are or anything like that. So they really confided in the attorney or the accountant, and they worked together to make that plan,
Now, I believe the attorney would be a little more personable than or having a corporate trustee that might not even have met you in your life.
I do not like corporate trustees.
Because of that?
Because of a lot of different reasons.
Oh, sure.
I think that corporate trustees charge a lot of money. I think that corporate trustees are not personable. Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea. I think it's very intrusive. And I think when attorneys are doing it, that they have at least the ability to know the person that they created the trust with, right? And so when you don't know the client, how are you to act as a trustee when you don't even know their wishes because you didn't create the document? Right. It's very frustrating for me when I see people get suckered into doing that. Yeah. Because it also costs a lot of, in my opinion, I have never seen a corporate trustee not take full commissions acting as trustee. Whereas I don't operate that way, and my partner Kevin does not operate that way either.
Yeah. So what happens is this: trust your assets is having the ability to have your assets controlled for now and for later. Your wishes to actually be implemented if you're here or if you're not here. These trustees are valuable people that you do truly trust to follow this through. Now, there's the trustees might charge a fee inside. Trustee might be a family member that could also charge a fee inside. But the idea is this: most people don't have anything. You need to think about how you're going to trust your assets and who you're going to trust them to. How are they going to be delivered to the next generation? Your legacy matters. Your legacy and your money matters. Taking time to build your plan is what we're trying to talk about, right, Ashley?
Yes. Yeah. And when you don't have any plan, well, you plan to fail. That's what that is.
Success brings complications.
Yes.
And when people do well, sometimes they're running at such a speed forward that they don't keep score. They don't do the fundamental pieces of estate planning, trust design, to make sure it is what they want in case something terrible happens.
Correct. And, it's just all part of it. What I like it too is that everybody needs to file a tax return every year. Okay. Yep. And people don't miss out on that, right? You have to do that or there's a consequence. What people need to treat estate planning like is that, because if you don't do your estate plan, there are going to be consequences. You may not be here to see them,
right.
But there will be definite consequences that you know, looking back on, if you were to be here when that happened, you would want to avoid.
Yeah, very true. And so estate planning, very, very important, especially when the success keeps growing. If your portfolios are growing and you're thinking about what do you do next, estate planning and makes understanding how trust is used when at the right times and how it helps and benefits your family, all very, very important. Ashley Nelson-Raut, we thank you very much for your time today with us.
Thank you for having me here again. I really appreciate it.
I promise not to torture you too bad. It went pretty well, right?
It went very, very well. All very painless.
Excellent. So her law firm is Bress-Raut Law. You can go to the website right after the same name and check out her information right there. Thank you very much for listening to Winning in Retirement today. Our show is called Trust Your Assets. You can go to our website at acresfinancialgroup.com, hit the radio podcast tab, and you'll see Ashley's last few shows with us so you can understand Estate Planning 101, also the first visit, and then today's show, Trust Your Assets, will be all right there on our website. We do thank you for taking advantage of the opportunity to listen to our show today. We want you to win in your retirement by taking advantage of an opportunity to begin planning with us at Acres Financial Group. To schedule your free meeting with one of our team of advisors, go to our website at acresfinancialgroup.com. Scroll to the Schedule a Meeting section and let us know you'd like to schedule your free meeting right there. That's acresfinancialgroup.com, or you can call us at 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. We'll call you on Monday to schedule a free in-person meeting with one of our team of advisors. Start planning for your retirement now. Go to acresfinancialgroup.com or call us at 833-946-7384. Thank you for listening. I'm Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group, and we want you to be winning in retirement.
You've been listening to Winning in Retirement with your host, Brian Akers of Akers Financial Group. Akers Financial Group offers securities through Archedios Capital, an SIPC and FINRA member firm. Advisory services are provided through Archedios Wealth. Akers Financial Group and Archedios do not share any common ownership. Neither Archedios nor Akers Financial Group provides tax or legal advice. Advice given on Winning in Retirement is general in nature, and one should seek further advice from their financial advisor, broker, attorney, and/or tax accountant before investing. Be sure to read each prospectus carefully to understand all the risks associated with each investment. Examples and scenarios shared are meant to be for illustrative purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results.